everybody. Welcome so much to the Powered Up Life Skills podcast. Today, we have the great pleasure of talking with Mari Fitzwin. And Mari is a really multi-talented woman that I met through more business realm, through homeschooling and nonprofit work. But yet Mari's got so many other sides to her. She's written several novels. In fact, just completed yet another one that is being sent to the publisher, and has also released a CD this year with some really beautiful music. And now we're today talking about yet a different creative side in jewelry making. So Mari herself actually sells the jewelry that she makes out of unique materials that she finds. She sells them online and also teaches. And she teaches jewelry making in different courses. So that's what we're talking with Mari today. And she's going to tell us about a memory bracelet and, why she picked it, and kind of walk us through how you might, make one at your home. So welcome, Mari.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
Absolutely. We're glad to have you, and we're excited to hear about, why you picked this bracelet and how we make it happen for us.
Sure. So it's called a memory wire bracelet, and it's one of my absolute favorite types of jewelry to make. The bracelet itself can feature gemstones or semi-precious material and be very elegant, or you can design one that's more funky, artsy, kind of fun and whimsical, but it's all using the same basic design and the same materials. So shall we get started?
Absolutely. This sounds really fun. It's like you can make it your own.
You can make it your own. You can customize this any way that you choose.
Oh, that's great. So yeah, maybe you could start us out and tell us what we need to have on hand.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So the material that you need to create this bracelet is very basic, and you don't need a lot of material. As I said, depending on the look that you're going for, you can do something very high-end, or again, just very whimsical and cute. But to start with, you will use what we call memory wire. And memory wire, when you look at it, will remind you of the children's toy called a slinky. It's just a lot of loops, and some of the wire is very fluid, and some of it is a little stiffer. But you will need memory wire, you'll need beads, and if you want to make let's say we're going to today make a bracelet out of chips. So you can use turquoise chips as the beads, and they're turquoise stone with a little hole drilled in the middle. And with the turquoise chips, we'll use a silver bead just to change it up and give it some excitement stylistically. So you want to, first of all, determine, well, let me just stick with what you need. I'm sorry. So you have the memory wire. You'll make a decision on your beads. You'll need two types of pliers, and one is called a round nose plier. And when you look at it, it looks like a regulation set of pliers, but the tip is round. And then the other pliers are flat nose, and those are pliers that you're probably more familiar with looking at. And then you need cutters. Now, the cutters are used to cut the memory wire, and it's very important that you only use cutters that are specifically for cutting memory wire. The memory wire is a hard wire to cut, and it will ruin any other type of cutter you use except one exclusively made for memory wire.
So it sounds like these supplies and the beads or things that you might get at a craft store?
You can find them at a craft store. You can find them at a hardware store, wherever jewelry making tools are sold. Yeah.
Great. And then once you have the supplies picked, then how do you move on to with your create?
Mhm. Sure. So the first thing you want to do with your memory wire is to determine the number of loops that you want to use for this project. Now, the memory wire is, again, looks like a slinky, but what you want to do is wrap it around your wrist and determine how many bangles you want to have on that memory wire bracelet. You can do as few as 2 or as many as 6 if you want to have a wider bracelet. So that's the first step you want to take, is to measure your wrist, or if you're making it for someone else, just determine, do they want a big bracelet or a small one? And then you'll want to count out beads that will fill the bracelet. So again, if you're only going to do 2 loops, then you don't need as many beads. If you're going to do 6, you probably are looking at over 100 beads that you're going to use. And that's how you get started. You measure that memory wire bracelet, and the very tip of it, you'll use your round nose pliers and make a very tiny loop at the tip of that wire, and that's so your beads don't fall off.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So like a stopper.
Yeah, and you know, there are other type of jewelry making material that you can actually use a stopper on, but again, because this memory wire is so strong that a stopper won't work on it. So you put the loop on there, and just before you're ready to start placing the beads onto the wire, it's a good idea for you to lay those beads out in a pattern. Determine if you want to do, now remember, we're going to use turquoise chips and silver beads. So do you want to put 1 turquoise and 1 silver, and then turquoise, silver, or do you want to do 4 or 5 turquoise and 1 silver, and then 4 or 5. So you want to determine what your pattern will look like. And you can use that pattern from start to finish on that memory wire, or you can just pull out the stops and be as creative as you care to. Maybe do a full loop with just the turquoise chips, and then alternating the next loop. And that third loop looks a little differently, the fourth loop looks different, and so forth and so on. But anyway, you want to have a pattern so that as you are placing the beads on the wire, it will look exactly the same way as you've laid it out. You can lay it out on a board, you can lay it out on a table, or you can put your beads in 2 separate containers and just work from, you know, one to the other. The more beads you have, the more complicated your pattern will be, and the more I would advise that you put it on some type of a board that is a jewelry designing board.
Well, this sounds like the real fun part, where you get to kind of design and pick what you want, and really come up with some fun things.
Oh, absolutely. And the nice thing about the memory wire is once you start to construct that bracelet, if you look at it and, you know, you put it on your arm and maybe you're midway through the process and you say, nah, I don't like it, or I want to add an additional color, you can just straighten that wire out a bit and let those beads fall right off and start all over again, because there's nothing that you have to take apart to do that. So yeah, you can just mix and match and have a lot of fun with it. And it can be a short project, or it can, you know, take some time, because you're creating as you go.
Right. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, because if you see it, sometimes you say, oh, I had this in my mind and it looks a little bit different, and maybe you want to try something else.
Right,
So this
exactly.
gives you the chance to change things up before you decide. Well, fun.
Absolutely, absolutely. So once you've established your pattern and you've filled that memory wire with all the beads and you're satisfied with what you have, then you will take the round nose plier once again and close that loop at the opposite end. So now you've got two loops on both ends of your memory wire. And what I want to share with you now is just a finishing touch to give it that extra pop. You can string a couple of beads onto that loop. If you make it, oh, it's hard to show that, but you can either make a very big loop and string beads onto it, or you can make tiny loops. And if you want to have a dangle, a little bangle at the end of your bracelet, then you could take 2 or 3 of those beads, whichever ones you determine, and this is an additional material, but you would get what we call a head pin and put 2 or 3 of those bracelets on the head pin. Just drop them right on there, and you form a loop with the head pin and stick that through the very end of that memory wire. And you've got memory wire with a bangle on it.
Oh, nice. So then the loops will keep the beads on. You don't need an actual closure to the bracelet.
No, the closure is the loop.
Great. Okay.
Wow. Isn't that easy? And isn't it fun?
Yeah, this is like super creative to think about all those patterns. So I'm excited to give one a try. And
great.
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think too that at some point we'd love to have you come back and maybe demonstrate this on video, because I think we might need to see this or some of your other types of jewelry that you're making, and you know, we would welcome that.
Sure. Well, I look forward to it, and again, it was just great to be with you today, Sandra.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your instruction and tips. And everybody, Mari's gonna, I will post the link so that Mari can show you what some of the finished products are like, and you can just click on there and see what she's up to. And if you want to buy anything, that's also clickable right there. So thank you so much, Mari, for your time today and your help and instruction. And we look forward to some more jewelry making.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Absolutely. Well, have a good one, everybody. Till next time.